this is a small town here of 40,000 odd people, and it'll do 120 odd $million worth of renovations according to Canadian home builders. If I want to do $5 million worth of work in this town, not a problem. So where is the challenge? It's the individual. It's me. That's the problem. That is always the problem.
How old are you going to be before you start to experience life like you want it? I want to tell you right now, whether you like it or not, there is a better way to do business.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Business for Builders podcast. My name's Max. I am your host, and today I sound a little different, but battling with some hoarse. But look, I appreciate you dropping in anyway. Appreciate all the long-time listeners, and certainly appreciate those folks that have just dropped in for the first time today. Look, today I'm going to give you something again that you can tuck under your arm. Gives you something to think about, perhaps, and really focus on. At the back end of 2024, really want to sort of think about in retrospect what happened this year. Make note of the things that you did well, and maybe the things that you didn't do so well, and you can do better. And really just, double down on that. So the theme for this month has been around, personal or leadership, personally, professionally, and privately, as well as strategic planning and starting to think about what's going to happen, next year based on the data that you've gathered this year in 2024. So today I'm just going to chat to you about, some of the keys to overcoming bottlenecks in your building company. Because a lot of the work that I do is as a business coach or a franchisor with franchisees, it's very intangible. And so what I'm talking about, if it's an intangible, it's very transformational. And I think a couple of episodes ago, or maybe the last one, I talked about the difference between transactional leadership and transformational leadership, where, we are wanting I'm wanting my elite business advisory clients to, transform themselves essentially through our business relationship, our business coaching relationship, and also my franchised operators to be able to take responsibility for understanding where they're at currently as operators and where we want to move them to throughout the process. So, being a business coach, it's that we're dealing in the intangibles, or the product is very transformational, which is all reliant on the human that I'm dealing with. And so over time, we're either going to subscribe to change or we are not. We're going to basically reject change and the opportunity that goes with that. Then, so look, some of the bottlenecks I'm going to talk about or refer to perhaps are going to be the things that the way that you think. We're talking about mindset and how that the way that you think determines the way you feel, and the way you feel determines your action or your output. And you have that going on long enough and you'll develop routines, and they are incredibly difficult to break, not impossible. I think you do anything for 30 days, it then becomes a habit. And so we really want to focus on how we can identify some of those roadblocks. And that's not me sitting here in a seat of judgment. That's not me sort of going to go down a list of items that, are typical, although we will cover a few general ones. But really it's the maturity in you as the business leader to step back and really take stock, do an audit, and really understand what it is that is stunting your growth perhaps. And so, the importance of identifying it is that we really want to give us the option to scale up our business. Now, not everyone wants to go and do many, many millions of dollars of sales per year. Some of you guys and gals may want to do that. If you do want to do that, then you're going to need to identify the bottlenecks, because that will have an impact on how your business grows. I think we've alluded to the fact that it's not hard for me to, in chatting with a builder, let's say a brand new individual, whether they're coming in on the franchise side of things or the elite business advisory, business coaching side of things, where their bottlenecks are, because I've only got to ask a few key questions. Now, remember, I spend all my life in the coaching of contractors. So it's not a case of, boy, that's unusual. It's just the same old, same old. It's an incredibly repetitious deficit that is in the heads and the hearts of builders and general contractors worldwide that really does create the majority of the challenge for builders and general contractors. So you might sort of say, well, what's the most common bottlenecks and how can we systematically eliminate them? And I think systematically is a pretty strong word, pretty pertinent word, because you don't just sort of wake up and go, oh, I've got this list of 10 bottlenecks that, in my business, and I'm going to get rid of those all by Monday morning at 9 a.m. It doesn't happen that way. So systematically eliminating is key, and it's going to take some patience. Another way to think about it might be, what are you actually doing, that's stunting your business growth? So a lot of the time people go, all right, I'm going to look for something that's external that's a bottleneck. I'm not getting enough leads. I don't have enough cash at bank to do marketing properly. I don't have a videographer. All of these types of external excuses as to why the business doesn't grow, and that could be deemed with merit to be a bottleneck. However, what I find too equally is that business owners are doing things in their business that are actually subconsciously a bottleneck. If you're a technician, which most of us are, let's face it, I was a apprentice carpenter for 4 years, and it was the time in that time you learn how to be a technician. So by the time you get through the trade and you've been in it 10 or 20 years, you're always walking around saying, well, nobody does as good as me. That, my friend, is a bottleneck, because I came and I went and, there'll be as many good, there's probably better people out there than me right now. Probably better people out there than you right now. So it's this, we live in this delusion that A, nobody does it better than us, and B, we can't find anybody that does it better than us. That's a roadblock. That's a bottleneck. That's because what it is, it's not a physical bottleneck. It's not a tangible bottleneck. It's an intangible. It's a mental. Because I'm telling you, I would bet dollars to donuts that between you and me, there's thousands of people that probably do a better job as a technician than what you and I do. So when we come with that attitude, all of a sudden it opens our mind up. And I've got to tell you, a lot of the time I'm chatting with business owners, questions are the answers. I use that approach when I'm talking with retail clients. But when I'm talking with builders about, when our goal is to grow their business or develop their business, their questions are the answers as well. And I would encourage you to sort of start asking your own questions. As a matter of fact, I had an EBA client this week who, sent me an email requesting some bits and pieces, and he said anything else that I don't even know about. So that's a classic example of somebody who's really in touch with understanding that, yes, Max, those things that we talked about in our session, I want more information around those. But the bet was that he knew that there was probably other stuff that he didn't even know to request. And, I've worked with business owners that do $250,000, and I've worked with business owners that do 10 million plus. It really is just an individual challenge to you as the business owner and the business operator, what you want to do with your business. Boy, I haven't even got into my notes yet. So, okay, let's get cracking. So, main points is you want to identify the common bottlenecks. We're going to run down. I'm going to do 3 things for you. We're going to identify some common bottlenecks. We're going to analyze the root cause, and I talk about, a gap analysis, and then we dive in and see what the root cause is, and then obviously steps to remove bottlenecks. And so I've got 3 points under each, so stick with me. So identifying, some of the common bottlenecks in your business, and these are really, a lot of these are very tangible. These aren't internal, personal type bottlenecks. I'm not going to cover those here, but you need to ask yourself the question, what are the bottlenecks that I'm trying to hide from Max that he can't see? And that's, essentially a good way of bringing accountability into your life and being honest with yourself. Because, we've talked about this before, but, if your ego gets the best of you and it really dominates your thought processes and your thought patterns, your business success will be limited. So just keep that in mind. Okay, one of the first common bottlenecks is poor project scheduling and the lack of workflow systems. Now, if you're in the new home sector, building new homes, of course your ability to schedule, the project is fine. But in the And of course to create, your progress payment schedule to ensure that you're getting paid at the right points. Now, people say to me, Max, how do you figure out when you're doing a renovation, whereabouts, how do you break up the $100,000 reno into stage claims? And so, if one of the bottlenecks in your business is project scheduling, I would say my response to that question is, well, I would put the job into my Gantt chart and my project schedule. And then what we would do is we would identify what I call, the hot spots as far as the price, the cost spikes. Where is it that I'm going to need money? I'm going to need money up front to order that kitchen. He's going to want 50% down, et cetera, et cetera. And so, if you're constantly going into projects and you don't have a way of assessing where your cost spikes are, you're going to constantly be tripping over yourself financially because you don't have a project scheduling or any way of calculating workflow. The root cause analysis of that is a lack of documented systems and clear processes. So, if you don't really understand because you have no way of analyzing that job, then you're going to struggle with that. Okay, so the root cause analysis is, you've just got lack of systems and clear processes. So steps to remove that bottleneck might be to implement SOPs for project management, communication and financial tracking. So, that kind of bottleneck can be eliminated. Second one might be another common bottleneck might be inefficient communication between team members, trades and clients. And so, to analyze the root cause analysis of that, we've got an over-reliance on the owner for the decision-making and approvals. Now, we talk a little bit about this when we talk about system or operating system development. Two indications that this is a bottleneck is that you are getting too many taps on the shoulder going, hey, I've got a question. And of course, everyone is then leaning on you for that final decision. That is a bottleneck because you're slowing down the whole process. Now, sure, I agree. You control the whole process, so you have eyes on everything. But what it does is it stunts the growth. So if you're over here, you're saying, Max, I want to grow a business, but over here, you're getting those taps on the shoulder, and worse still, you're getting the mistakes in the program, like you get the oops, my bad. Sorry about that, boss. That's because there's no real system there to handle that either. So again, that's a mental thing, because I can put a system together for something in that regard, and then if they don't comply with that system, we can have a chat and we can figure out what's going on. And maybe the person's got a bit of a challenge with complying with the system that we have to deal with. So the steps to remove the bottleneck would be to leverage leverage technology. So CRMs, job management systems, financial software, and that'll streamline operations. That'll certainly go a long way to streamlining your operations as well. Third one, cash flow management issues causing delays and stress. I see this in a more of a cash gap situation. And I actually heard on another podcast, I was driving down the road and I've shared this with some clients and whatnot, that there was one builder on that podcast that was said, we give the clients 10 days to pay. I almost drove off the friggin' road. It's like, here we are, we've got subcontractors killing us for payment unless we have a stipulated system. We've got, vendors or suppliers where we know we've got to pay those guys every 30 days, come what may. And then over here, we're invoicing clients and giving them 10 days to pay for work that's already been finished. That to me is a gap in your cash flow. And so a cash gap plan is to ensure that your invoices that you generate are due upon receipt. I think as it relates to cash flow management, the root cause is insufficient training for team members or subcontractors. Like, we don't issue invoices on our retail front with any kind of time. They're due upon receipt. And so, between that and then, of course, the other side of it is with subcontractors, if you invoice on the 15th of the month, you get paid 10 days later. If you invoice on the 30th, you get paid by the 10th of the following month. And so, that is to maintain control, because I don't need people just coming in wasting the time of my admin team, because all of a sudden they wake up and they've got to pay their electricity bill. So they're going to race down to Max's office and grab a check. It doesn't happen that way. So, we want to make sure that our cash flow management systems are not all governed by my pen signing that check, okay? We want to be by design, not by default, okay? So steps to removing the bottlenecks would be focusing on leadership development. We want to empower the team to take ownership on their roles. So for me as a business owner, when I'm talking to, financial administrators and things like that, I lay down the law, I suppose, which is a system, and we have playbooks for that and SOPs. And so, it's just, this is how we cook the burger. I think that I could be accused of being too liberal as far as just giving people too much creative license. And what it does is it causes catastrophe within the operation. And so, there's this fine balance for you and I as business owners to not be too much of a micromanager, but, in other words, being a transactional leader, and where we want to be a transformational leader because we empower people to do what they've got to do. And, essentially that I'm transferring the power from me to them. And that only really works with the right human, and we talk about cultural fits and really using our core values to qualify you new people that come onto the team, because it's super important that you gel. I've been in rock and roll bands that it just doesn't work. And it's not that we haven't got talented musicians, it's just the personalities off stage just do not work. And there's plenty of stories about that, but that's the same sort of thing. We need to focus on that leadership development. We need to talk to our team and help them understand that they need to grow as well. You can't just continue on and work your job and be satisfied if you're not busy growing. If you're not busy living, you're busy dying. If you're not busy growing, you're busy stagnating and going backwards. And so it's really important. So, there's such a critical need to identify and to dismantle the bottlenecks, because that unlocks the growth in your business life. Now, remember, take a step back. Before your business grows, you've got to grow. So then you go and we talk about the more you learn, the more you earn. Okay, the more you become aware of where you're lacking, where I'm lacking, the sooner we can plug that hole or systemize that deficiency or put somebody in position there that is restricting, because we restrict the growth. If we identify and we eliminate, then we can see the business begin to develop. Ask yourself these couple of questions. What if your current workload was to double overnight? We brag about, nobody does it better than me. Great. What happens if it doubled overnight? And you'd say, well, I wouldn't do that. I'm like, all right then. I'm talking to our business owners, and they're probably their largest requirement is lead generation. Let me ask you this, and this might be a funny one too, but if you doubled your inquiry this month than what you got last month, how would you handle that? And you might say, well, Max, I only got one lead last week or last month, so I'm sure I could handle two. Unfortunately, if that wasn't so tragic, that would be hilarious. So that identifies, a bit of a challenge, and we're going to talk a bit more about that maybe in the next episode or two. But, you've really got to understand that, we can be our biggest limiting factor. I talk to a lot of guys, both in the coaching world and also in the franchise world, and they just suffer from opportunity blindness. This is a small town here of 40,000 odd people, and it'll do $120 odd million worth of renovations according to Canadian home builders. If I want to do $5 million worth of work in this town, not a problem. So where is the challenge? It's the individual. It's me. That's the problem. That is always the problem. It's not external, mate. I bet you there's half a dozen good trades out there that would work for me in no time flat if I knew who they were, and I had the financial capacity to be able to headhunt them and get them across. Which then that lends it to the other side of things. Why have I not got enough cash at bank to be able to headhunt and recruit? Well, then we start talking about pricing models, which we're going to do. I think we're going to do that next episode. But so I think the way to really pull this apart is to just start with one bottleneck. And that's why for me as a coach, I bring awareness, followed up with education, and then stand by accountability. As being the cherry on top. Executing at the highest level regularly is what I'm about. And so the way not to get too discouraged about this challenge is that just pick one bottleneck and start thinking about how you're going to dismantle that, how we're going to systematically remove that, let's call it as a trip hazard within your business, and then really implement a tailored, specific system as to how we're going to ensure that gap doesn't open up again, that we don't get that challenge in the future as well. I think at the end of the day, guys and gals, we want to identify, you want to educate yourself around it, and then you want to implement, and that will equal scale. And I think when we're always talking about growth, I just think we just need to celebrate some of the smaller wins, because I think we overestimate what we can do in 12 months and we underestimate what can happen to us in 10 years if we're patient. So, I would rather grow a company 15% year on year than go and have someone who 3X's, 5X's their business, and in 2 years they can't pay their bills because they weren't able to watch their or manage their cash flow and their cash at bank and their equity position in their own company. What's the point of that? In 3 years, all you did is run around like a blue-ass fly and lose it all. It's just we need to be more calculated in our approach. Guys and girls, get across to Business for Builders VIP. It's a private group there. Answer the 3 questions. If you're a good sort, I'll let you in. Like and subscribe here if you're on YouTube. One of these drops every week. And get across to, if you want to chat with me on email, max@elitebusinessadvisory.com, or you can go and check out my coaching for contractors website at elitebusinessadvisory.com. Go build a kick-ass business. See you on the next episode. Cheers.